Part 1. The New Logic of War. A drone that costs less than your motorbike destroys a tank that costs more than a luxury apartment. That's not science fiction. That's 2022. Ukraine. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because suddenly, warfare stops being about who has the biggest army and starts being about who has the weirdest ideas that actually work. And history. Oh, history is full of those ideas. Some genius, some insane, some both. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Military innovation isn't a straight line. It's not rifle right arrow, better rifle right arrow, even better rifle. It's chaos. Engineers, generals, sometimes complete lunatics, trying anything that might give them an edge. Exploding bats, flying tanks, guns that shoot around corners. Some of these worked. Some really didn't. But every single one tells you something about how war actually evolves. And once you connect the dots, modern warfare suddenly makes a lot more sense. Part 2. The FPV revolution. Let's start with something that looks almost normal today. The first-person view drone. FPV. Introduced widely around 2015 in civilian racing circuits. Weaponized heavily by 2022. Weight about 1-2 kilograms. Cost as low as $400 to $1,000. Range 5 to 15 kilometers with signal boosters. Function. It's basically a flying bomb, controlled through VR goggles like a video game. And yes, that's exactly how operators describe it. Meet Andriy, 29, former weddings videographer in Kiev. In early 2022, he's filming couples. Soft lighting, slow-motion kisses. By mid-2022, he's flying FPV drones into Russian armored vehicles. Same skills, different targets. And here's the wild part. An FPV drone carrying a modified RPG warhead can punch through 300 millimeters of armor. That's enough to kill a T-72 tank. One hit. Game over. A $700 drone versus a $3 million tank. Do the maths. It's not even close. And suddenly, you realize this isn't just a weapon. It's a glitch in the system. Part 3. Experiments gone wild. Now rewind. 1942. United States. And someone has an idea. What if we weaponize bats? No, seriously. The project was called the Bat Bomb. Official designation, X-ray project. The concept was weirdly clever. You take thousands of bats, attach tiny incendiary bombs to them, about 17 grams each. Drop them over Japanese cities at dawn. The bats naturally hide in rooftops and attics. Then the timers go off. Thousands of simultaneous fires. Wooden cities. No firefighting coordination. Total chaos. They actually tested it at Carlsbad Army Airfield in New Mexico. And it worked. Too well. One test went wrong and burned down part of the base. Not the target. Their own base. That's when you know it's effective. But here's the twist. The Bat Bomb was cancelled in 1944. Not because it failed, but because something faster came along. The Manhattan Project. The atomic bomb. And suddenly, bats weren't cutting it anymore. Part 4, when physics says no. Now let's talk about something that sounds like a joke. The flying tank. Official name, Antonov A-40. Country, Soviet Union. Year 1942. Yes, they literally strapped wings onto a tank. The idea was simple. Tow a light tank behind a bomber aircraft. Release it mid-air. And have it glide into battle. Paratroopers, but with armor. Sounds insane. It was. The tank used was a T-60. Weight about 5.8 tons after stripping it down. Wingspan roughly 18 meters. But physics doesn't care about your ambition. The bomber couldn't handle the drag. The towing aircraft nearly crashed during testing. They had to release the tank early. And somehow, the pilot inside the tank actually landed it. Then drove away. Yes, that part worked. Everything else didn't. Program cancelled after one real test. Because sometimes, just because you can, doesn't mean you should. Part 5, War Without Technology. Now shift to Vietnam. 1960s, 1970s. Different kind of war. No massive tank battles. No clear front lines. Just jungle. Ambushes. Improvisation. And that's where you get one of the simplest and most terrifying weapons ever used. The punji trap. It's not high-tech. Not even close. A hole in the ground. Sharpened bamboo stakes at the bottom. Sometimes coated with toxins or waste to cause infection. Cost. Basically zero. Effectiveness. Psychological devastation. You're walking through dense jungle. You can't see the ground. Every step might be your last step with both legs intact. No explosion. No warning. Just, you fall. And the war changes for you instantly. American troops reported that punji traps weren't just about injury. They were about slowing down units. One wounded soldier requires 3-4 others to evacuate him. So one trap removes 5 soldiers from combat. That's efficiency in the darkest way possible. Part 6, Weapons of Sensation. Now jump forward again. Modern era. And things get weirder in a different way. Because now we are not just attacking bodies. We're attacking senses. Take the active denial system. Developed by the United States. Early 2000s. It looks like a satellite dish mounted on a Humvee. Range about 500 meters. Frequency 95 gigahertz. What does it do? It fires a focused microwave beam that heats the water molecules in your skin. Not enough to burn you permanently, but enough to feel like your skin is on fire. Instantly. Test subjects described it as unbearable within 2-3 seconds. You don't see it. You don't hear it. You just feel pain. And you run. Every time. It was designed for crowd control. Non-lethal. No bullets. Just invisible force. Sounds clean, right? Except, people started asking questions. What happens if it malfunctions? What if exposure lasts too long? And more importantly, do you really want a weapon that causes pain, with no visible source. That's a different kind of fear. Part 7, the pattern. And by now, you're probably noticing something. A pattern. Every era creates weapons that reflect its fears. And its technology. WWIS. Fire. Mass destruction. Vietnam. Terrain. Psychology. Modern day. Precision. Control. Asymmetry. But we're just getting started. Because everything we've seen so far still makes some sense. Even the bats. But the next set of weapons, they cross into territory where you genuinely ask, who approved this? And more importantly, did it actually work? Because coming up next, we're talking about weapons that bend physics, break logic, and sometimes accidentally change the future of warfare. And the next one, it's where things stop being weird and start being genius or terrifying, depending on which side you're on. Part 1, weapons that bend reality. There's a moment in every war where someone looks at the rules and decides they're optional. And that's where things get dangerous. Because the next wave of weird weapons didn't just try to scare you. They tried to outsmart reality itself. Let's go back to 1940. Britain. The country is under constant threat from German bombers. Radar exists, but it's still new, still imperfect. So British engineers ask a very simple question. What if we could fake an entire city? Project name, Starfish Sights. Not a weapon in the traditional sense, but absolutely a weapon of deception. They built fake cities, complete with controlled fires, lights, even simulated industrial activity, placed miles away from real targets. At night, from 5,000 meters up, you can't tell the difference. So German bombers dropped their payloads on empty fields. Thousands of tons of explosives gone. According to British wartime records, some raids had over 50% of bombs diverted to decoys. Think about that. Half the destruction redirected by illusion. No bullets fired. Just light and lies. Part 2, overkill and absurdity. Now let's flip from deception to pure overkill. The M65 atomic cannon. United States. Introduced 1953. Nickname Atomic Annie. This thing fired a nuclear shell from a cannon. Let that sink in. Caliber 280 millimeters. Range about 32 kilometers. Yield roughly 15 kilotons, about the same as Hiroshima. From a cannon. They tested it once. Nevada Test Site. 1953. Operation Upshot Knothole. The shell was fired. Flew 11 kilometers. And detonated midair. Nuclear explosion. Delivered like artillery. The shockwave hit observers seconds later. And just like that, you had a battlefield nuke. Tactical, deployable, mobile, also completely impractical. Because the cannon itself weighed over 83 tons. It needed 2 tractors just to move it. Set-up time, hours. And in a real war, it would be destroyed before it even fired. They retired it by 1963 because missiles were faster smarter, and didn't need a road. Part 3. The Age of Precision. Now step into the present again. And here's where things start to feel almost science fiction. Laser weapons. Real ones. Not movie props. Take the AN/SEQ-3 laser weapon system, LAWS, deployed by the US Navy around 2014. Power about 30 kilowatts in early versions. Target drones, small boats, incoming threats. Cost per shot about $1. Compare that to a missile interception. 100,000 minimum. Sometimes over $1 million for one shot. Now you have a laser that fires at the speed of light. Infinite magazine as long as you have power. And near zero cost per engagement. No recoil. No travel time. Just point and burn. Within seconds, a drone's electronics fail. Or its wings catch fire. And it falls. Silently. That's the future knocking. Part 4. Innovation in angles. But not all innovation is about scale. Sometimes it's about angles. Literally. The corner shot system. Developed in Israel in the early 2000s. It's a firearm that bends. Front half pivots up to 63 degrees. Camera mounted on the barrel. Screen for the operator. So you can aim and shoot without exposing your body. Urban warfare is brutal. Tight spaces. Unknown threats. Corners killed people. This changes that equation. You stay behind cover. Your weapon does the peeking. Range about 100 meters effective. Compatible with pistols like Glock 17. Not perfect, but in the right situation. It saves lives and ends others. Part 5. The Swarm Era. Now let's scale up again. Because the next category is where things stop being individual weapons and start becoming systems. Swarm drones. Not one drone. Not 10. Hundreds. Sometimes thousands. All connected. All communicating. Each unit is simple. Jeep. Maybe $200 too. 000 each. But together, they behave like a single organism. Adaptive, resilient, relentless. You shoot one down. Doesn't matter. There are 200 more. Traditional air defense systems weren't built for this. They're designed for expensive targets. Jets, missiles, not swarms of flying insects. Part 6. The Real Shift. And here's where the pattern finally clicks. This is the shift. The real one. Most people think military power is about having better weapons. More advanced. More expensive. That's outdated. Modern warfare is becoming a mass problem. Cheaper versus expensive. Quantity versus quality. A $500 drone killing a $5 million system. Over and over again. That's not just effective. It's unsustainable for the side with expensive gear. According to multiple defense analyses in 2023, 2024, Ukraine was producing tens of thousands of drones per month. Not billion-dollar systems. Garage-built machines. Modified. Iterated. improved weekly. Meanwhile, each lost tank or missile system takes months or years to replace. That's the aha moment. War isn't just about strength anymore. It's about efficiency. Who can adapt faster? Who can lose less, while forcing the enemy to lose more? And suddenly, the weird weapons don't seem so weird anymore. They're logical, brutally logical. Part 7, the final realization. The bat, the flying tank, the microwave beam, the laser, the swarm. Each one looks ridiculous until it works. So which one is the most powerful? It's not the nuclear cannon. Too slow, too visible. Not the flying tank. Too impractical. Not even the laser. Yet, it's the small ones, the cheap ones, the ones you can build in a garage and deploy by the thousands. Because those break the system. And that leaves us with one uncomfortable question. If the barrier to building effective weapons keeps getting lower, who gets to use them? Governments, of course, but not just governments anymore. Because the future of warfare isn't just powerful, it's accessible. And that changes everything. Not bigger, not louder, just smarter and cheaper and everywhere.